You did everything right. You picked a healthy plant from the nursery, you dug the hole, you watered it faithfully, and still, your hydrangea just sits there, barely growing, maybe struggling, definitely not giving you those big, lush blooms you were promised. Here's the truth nobody tells you at the garden center. Hydrangeas are not difficult plants, but they are specific plants. And most people are unknowingly making one or several mistakes that quietly sabotage their results from day one. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 7 of the most costly hydrangea mistakes, including a few that even experienced gardeners keep making. By the end, you'll know exactly what's killing your blooms before they even start, and what to do differently starting today. Let's get into it. Number 1. Planting in the wrong light. But not the way you think. Everyone knows hydrangeas need partial shade. You've read it on the tag, you've heard it repeated everywhere. So you plant yours somewhere that gets morning shade and afternoon sun, thinking you've nailed it. You haven't. Hydrangeas are incredibly sensitive to afternoon sun specifically, and that's the part most people get backwards. Morning sun is gentle, low intensity, and hydrangeas actually love it. It helps dry the dew off the leaves, reducing disease pressure, and it triggers strong bloom production. Afternoon sun, however, is brutal. It causes wilting, bleaches out flower color, and stresses the plant so badly it redirects its energy away from blooming entirely. The ideal placement is east-facing, where your hydrangea gets 3 to 5 hours of direct morning light and is shielded from the intense heat of the afternoon. A spot on the east or northeast side of your house, under a high canopy tree, or along a fence that blocks western exposure will do far more for your plant than any fertilizer on the market. If your hydrangea is already planted in the wrong spot and it's still relatively young, don't be afraid to move it. Early fall is the best time to transplant. The plant is winding down, the soil is still warm, and it'll have all winter to settle its roots before it needs to perform again. Number 2. Digging a hole too deep. This one is so simple, and yet it quietly kills thousands of hydrangeas every year. When you plant too deep, even just a few inches below the surrounding soil level, you create 2 serious problems. First, water pools around the base of the stem, and hydrangeas are extremely susceptible to crown rot. Second, the root zone gets starved of the oxygen it needs, and the plant slowly suffocates. The fix is straightforward. Plant high, not flush. The top of the root ball should sit slightly above the surrounding soil, about an inch or so. Then mound the soil gently around the sides. This encourages drainage, protects the crown, and mimics how hydrangeas grow naturally in the wild, where they're never sitting in low, water-collecting depressions. If you're in a heavy clay soil area, this becomes even more critical. Clay holds water for a long time. Raised planting combined with amended backfill soil, think compost and coarse grit mixed in, can be the difference between a thriving plant and a slow, frustrating decline. Number 3. Watering too often instead of too deep. Most people hear that hydrangeas love water and immediately start giving them a little bit every day. It feels attentive, it feels caring, but it's actually training your plant to fail. When you water frequently but shallowly, the roots have no reason to grow downward. They stay close to the surface, chasing the moisture you keep supplying up top. Then one hot week hits, the surface dries out faster than usual, and your plant wilts dramatically. Not because it's thirsty, but because its shallow root system can't buffer against heat and dry spells. Deep, infrequent watering, once or twice a week, soaking the root zone thoroughly each time, forces roots to grow deep where the soil stays consistently moist and cool. A plant with deep roots can handle a missed watering day, a stretch of dry weather, or a heat wave without drama. A simple rule: water slowly, water long, water less often. A soaker hose or drip system set to run for 30 to 45 minutes is far more effective than a quick pass with the garden hose every evening. Number 4. Pruning at the wrong time of year. This might be the single most common reason hydrangeas don't bloom, and once you understand the mechanics, you'll never make this mistake again. There are 2 categories of hydrangeas: those that bloom on old wood, growth from last year, and those that bloom on new wood, growth from the current season. If you prune an old wood variety, like a mophead or lace cap, in late fall, winter, or early spring, you have cut off the very buds that were about to give you flowers. You've essentially done the pruning equivalent of pulling your own hair out. Big leaf hydrangeas, the classic pink and blue ones, and oak leaf hydrangeas are old wood bloomers. The rule for these is simple. Only prune them immediately after they finish flowering in summer. Never in fall, never in spring. And even then, prune conservatively. Remove dead or crossing branches, not healthy growth. Smooth hydrangeas, like Annabelle, and panicle hydrangeas bloom on new wood, so they can be pruned in late winter or early spring without any risk. In fact, pruning these types hard in early spring actually encourages bigger, more dramatic flower heads. Before you pick up your pruners, know what you're working with. Number 5. Using the wrong fertilizer at the wrong time. Fertilizing seems like a straightforward act of generosity towards your plants. More nutrients, more growth, more blooms, right? Not with hydrangeas. The most common fertilizing mistake is applying a high nitrogen fertilizer too late in the season. Nitrogen drives leafy vegetative growth, which sounds good in theory. But if you're pushing new green growth in late summer or early fall, you're encouraging soft, frost-tender tissue right when the plant should be hardening off for winter. That new growth gets killed by the first frost, and depending on the variety, those dead tips can mean a complete loss of next year's bloom buds. For most hydrangeas, a balanced, slow-release fertilizer applied once in spring, right as new growth emerges, is all you need. If you want to add a second feeding, do it no later than mid-summer, and consider switching to a low-nitrogen bloom-boosting formula like a 10-30-10 ratio that encourages flowering rather than foliage. One more thing, if you're trying to shift the color of your big leaf hydrangeas from pink to blue or vice versa, that's done through soil pH, not fertilizer. Acidic soil below 6.0 produces blue flowers. Alkaline soil above 7.0 produces pink flowers. Aluminum sulfate can be worked into the soil to push towards blue. Garden lime will bring you back towards pink. But this is a gradual process. Don't expect overnight results, and test your soil before you start adjusting it blindly.
Number 6. Ignoring the mulch layer. Mulch seems like an afterthought, a finishing touch you add to make the garden bed look tidy. But for hydrangeas is genuinely functional, and skipping it or applying it incorrectly has real consequences. Hydrangea roots are shallow and sensitive to temperature extremes. Without a proper mulch layer, the soil heats up fast in summer and freezes hard in winter. Both extremes stress the plant, reduce blooms, and in cold climates can kill off the flower buds that were set the previous fall. A 2 to 3 inch layer of shredded bark, wood chips, or leaf mold applied around the base of the plant but kept a few inches away from the stem itself insulates the root zone, retains moisture between watering sessions, suppresses competing weeds, and gradually breaks down to feed the soil biology that supports healthy root development. The mistake people make is piling mulch directly against the stem in a volcano shape. This traps moisture against the crown, invites rot and pests, and defeats the purpose entirely. Keep it flat, keep it clear of the stem, and refresh it once a year in spring. Number 7. Giving up after one bad season. This last one isn't about technique, it's about patience, and it matters more than people realize. Hydrangeas have an establishment period. In their first year, and sometimes their second, they put almost all of their energy underground. They're building roots, not blooms. It's normal to plant a hydrangea and get almost nothing from it for a full season. It doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean the plant is defective. It means it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do before it's ready to perform. The gardeners who get the most from their hydrangeas are the ones who plant correctly, resist the urge to over-fertilize or over-prune out of frustration, and give the plant time to establish on its own terms. By year 2 or 3, a correctly planted hydrangea in the right location will reward that patience with more blooms than you can count. Don't move it, don't dig it up, don't flood it with products trying to force results. Trust the process, fix the conditions, and wait. So there you have it, 7 mistakes that are far more common than they should be, and every single one of them is fixable. To recap quickly, Get your light exposure right by protecting from afternoon sun, plant slightly high to protect the crown, water deeply and infrequently, know your hydrangea type before you prune a single branch, feed with the right fertilizer at the right time of year, mulch properly without smothering the stem, and give your plant the time it needs to establish. Fix those 7 things and you'll be amazed at what your hydrangeas are actually capable of. If you found this helpful, go ahead and like the video. It genuinely helps this channel reach more gardeners who need this information. And if you're planning to plant hydrangeas this season, drop a comment below and tell me which variety you're going with. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we've got more plant-specific deep dives coming that are exactly like this. Practical, no fluff, and built around what actually works. See you in the next one.